And then the next time my brother's around, I'll do the ear thing. No problem.
Not even half as good as me. He talks about his mother first before he even gets to Claudius.
What?
Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe you're crazy. Maybe we're crazy.
As far as I can recall, Act 1, Scene 5, not much happens.
Yeah. I think you could probably cut it.
I was thinking that, yes. Very kind of unnecessary scene. Scholars have said it was written as an afterthought, probably by someone else.
Let's see, where are we? So what happened right before this?
Well, apparently, Horatio has brought Hamlet to the Night's Watch, where they said, hey, there's a ghost showing up. We think you should check it out. He's like, yeah, I don't know. Then the ghost appears and he's like, hey, Ghosty's here. This is like happening. And then the ghost is like, you. And Marcellus is like, me? And he goes, nope, you, Hamlet. And Horatio's like, me? Definitely not you, Hamlet. So then Hamlet goes off to the ghost, and that's where we begin the beginning of scene 5, which is the final scene in the very first act of Hamlet.
That's right. That is right. And up to this point, there has been a lot of ghost talk. And it's taken 5 scenes before the ghost actually says a word and lets us know what that's all about. There's been.
Oh, I'm sorry. What were you going to say?
No. I mean, there's been a lot of good exposition, laying down of characters, laying down of who relates to who, kind of what happened before the play started. But I feel like right now, besides the opening scene, we're getting a scene where something actually happens in the play, rather than reacting to things that happened before the play started.
That's a good point. Though one could, well, doesn't matter, but still, a lot has happened. You know, the first appearance of the ghost, the introduction to Claudius and Gertrude, the introduction of Laertes, Ophelia, and Polonius. So we're kind of, at this point, enmeshed in this world that Shakespeare has set up in Elsinore, in Denmark.
Yeah.
And something is brewing. We're also set up with Hamlet's internal misery and conflict, and how he's essentially dead to the world, and contemplating ending his life, and how at this moment he's awakened because Horatio tells him there's a ghost that looks very much like his father. And he's like, what?
Right.
Wait, what? You know, so
he,
you know, his plans for self-destruction, if we are to take them seriously, have been cast aside for like, whoa, I'm just going to go with this.
Yeah, right. And we, he kind of has a purpose and a mission once Horatio tells him that there's a ghost that looks like your father. Also, he immediately questions it from the beginning, even though we all agree it looks like my dad. He immediately says, angels and ministers of grace, defend us. Be thou a goblin damned, or what does he say? He doesn't know. He immediately questions if it's the devil or if it really is. So we go into this scene with Hamlet still not sure if this is the ghost of his father or it's the devil playing a trick on him.
Yes, and I think we've also established that Hamlet and his father, and maybe the kingdom as a whole, have deep religious foundation within them. And so they will look at things as, you know, personifications of good, morally sound and personifications of evil, hell, the devil, what have you.
Right.
So
Right.
that's sort of
And that will continue throughout the rest of the play.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. It's time for us to finally hear what the ghost has to say.
I'm
If he has
thinking
anything,
that part,
if he has anything important to say at all.
and just do Horatio's lines, which I think is really kind of the core of the play.
Just read Horatio.
Yes. Okay. Why don't you begin,
All right.
sir?
Okay, so Hamlet and the ghost have just exited. We've just gotten the famous line, "Something is rotten in the state of Denmark." Horatio has just said, "We should just let him go." Marcellus is like, "No, we should go look for him." Enter Ghost and Hamlet. Hamlet immediately commands, "Whither wilt thou lead me? Speak, I'll go no further." And we get the first word from the ghost, 2 words, "Mark me." And right on top of that, Hamlet says, "I will." And then the ghost finishes the line, "My hour is almost come." So there's an opportunity there to make those 3 lines one line, right? Kind of bang, bang, bang. "Mark me, I will, my hour is almost come," which when that's done well, it can be very effective. I like that idea.
Also, I want to make sure to note that this is still a very very commanding Hamlet. You know, it's rare that we see him so resolute. He goes from to be or not to be, conflicted, miserable, in a state of sorrow, to "I'll go no further."
Mm-hmm.
So wait a minute, this is a guy that is contemplating life or death, and then he's like, "I'm not going further. I know
Right.
my life is important because I kind of feel like I want to live now."
Interesting. Well, I think he says, well, it's also there, you could look at it as that kind of, he says earlier, "I do not set my life at a pin's fee. So what can it do?" In other words, I've got nothing to lose at this point. This is the only thing I've got right now, is this. So he's commanding in that way, but at least at least he's not too solid flesh of, he wants to disappear, melt away into a dew, had not fixed his cannon against self-slaughter, right? "Break my heart, for I must hold my tongue." Now, you're right. He's looking at this ghost saying, "Stop," or I'm not going any further. You have to talk now. Now, all of a sudden, he's a different Hamlet. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then, so the ghost says, "My hour is almost come." So as much as we don't talk about time, we kind of have to address certain things. So the ghost shows up, we know, around midnight or 1, we're not quite sure, but somewhere between midnight and 1 o'clock. So it's good to know. It's good to know that's where we're at. Perhaps there was a time jump in between "Something is rotten in the state of Denmark" and this. Perhaps the ghost and Hamlet were doing this walk for 5 hours. Maybe, I don't know. But the ghost is saying now, it's almost time that I have to go back because the sun is coming up, is what he's starting to say.
It'd be funny if someone had discovered the unpublished pages of Hamlet where they talked about what the ghost and Hamlet talked beforehand. They're like, "So how are you? Good, you?" "Well, things have been better." "Okay, yeah, me too."
Yeah, cold this time of year. Yeah.
Bit brisk tonight. Yes, very brisk. But God in hell, I'm not saying it's hell, but I can't talk about it. It'll kill you. But
that's pretty great. That's pretty great. And then the sun comes up and he goes, "Oh, my hour is almost come."
Yes.
When I to sulphurous and tormenting flames must render up myself. So immediately, if you're wondering about, is it a ghost? Is it an angel? Is it the devil? What is it? There's a clue. Sulphurous and tormenting flames must render up myself. Either hell or purgatory. What did this guy do to deserve this?
The ghost doubles down on that later, saying, he's like, "I didn't get a chance to absolve myself of sins." It's like, what sins did you do?
That would be my first question.
Yes, he must have sacrificed a goat and must have, God knows what, he raped probably an entire village. I mean, from all we know, because it's I don't know if is that how religion looks at life after death. Like someone murders you and you suffer through sulfurous and tormenting flames until they murder your murderer. I'm like, oh, that's how that goes. I don't think that's in the Bible. Where do they get
Yeah,
that
it's funny.
from?
Was Hamlet's father, did he go to church? They seem to be raised on this forgiveness of sins thing. Had he not
Yes.
done that in a while? Like it's yeah.
Yeah. And the ghost is like, thou shalt not kill. The ghost is like, no, kill. Yeah, no, kill. Kill,
Yeah.
revenge. Not in the Bible, but I'm telling you, it's my Bible. You got to do it.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So that's a first clue. When I to sulphurous and tormenting flames must render up myself. And the ghost stuff coming up, the ghost stuff is some of my favorite language. It's not the most poetic or most beautiful, but there's just something in the rhythms of the words that we're going to hear later, that the way the ghost speaks, and he speaks in very long passages, which I just love. And you get a taste of it here. When I to sulphurous and tormenting flames must render up myself, there's just a different sound to it that I really like. Again, Hamlet, opportunity, jumps right on the end of that line and completes the iambic pentameter, right? Must render up myself, alas, poor ghost, or completes the pentameter at least. Ghost immediately, pity me not. You don't want me to pity you, but you're going on and on about sulphurous
I know.
and tormenting.
It's like, why is the ghost? That's one of my notes here. It's like, why is the ghost complaining? Dude, it's not about you, Ghosty. I mean,
oh, it is. Oh, it is.
Yeah, for someone who was like, I'm not supposed to speak about, because it will make your blood boil and your eyes pop out of your head. But let me tell you something, it's bad. It's some serious stuff. Poor you. No, it's not about me. Stop pitying me. I'm like, what is wrong with you, Ghost? I think the Hamlet's not the only one. I think the Ghost is conflicted. He's got his own to be or not to be thing.
Yeah. I think you're right. Pity me not, but lend thy serious hearing to what? Lend thy serious hearing to what? I shall unfold another opportunity for Hamlet to finish the line here, right? So we've seen that, 3 times now? 3 out of 3? Hamlet has finished the ghost's lines, which gives the actor, gives the director clues on the mindset, clues on the pacing and the tempo that maybe Shakespeare intended. To what I shall unfold, speak, I am bound to hear. So art thou to revenge when thou shalt hear. All right, revenge, that's the first time we hear. And if we are looking at this play as possibly the first audience in 1603, that could be that's a big plot point. This guy who passed away suddenly by a snake bite in the garden, all of a sudden now wants you to revenge. So these are big plot points. Modern audiences kind of come in with this knowledge already, but we have to play it with the kind of first time without that previous knowledge, I think.
Yeah. I mean, Hamlet, birth to this point, has never taken part in anything close to revenge.
No.
He's had an interesting background. He's had training and sword fighting and things like that, but revenge, it's like, and which is why his next line, I love it. It's just the most kind of grounded and simple. It's like, what?
I know.
It's
know.
rare with Shakespeare that you see something as simple as what? Huh?
What?
Yeah.
Yes, right.
It's like, whereas we talked previously in the act about the Who, particularly Pete Townsend and Keith Moon.
Yes, right. We talked a lot about that
on Hamlet. But who's there from the very first line, and now it's like, and which makes me think, okay, we've been discussing the Who. Now, as you mentioned, the first thing that happens into play, the what?
The what?
And he goes, what? As an actor, wow, there's a whole bunch of stuff to put into that what. That could be a really loaded what.
I always like to play it like I just didn't hear him. That's all. Yeah. I was like, play it like what? I'm sorry. What was that last part?
Yeah. What did you say?
Yeah. What was that? No, it's true. And if you look at the way Hamlet describes himself, even as I to Hercules, talking about his opposite.
Yes.
Not really a man of action, of doing, whereas kind of Laertes is the man of action and doing and that kind of thing. Whereas Hamlet's more of the thinker and the philosopher. When told to revenge, that's also kind of the opposite of who Hamlet is. He's now
Yeah.
going to have to reinvent himself to do this thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's like asking me to do laundry. Like, what?
Yeah,
Really?
what?
It's
No.
scholars. I have often Howard Bloom, I think, often talked about my aversion to laundry and how asking me to do laundry is very much akin to Hamlet's
Yes.
burden.
Yes, it's an analogy everyone gets. Yep.
And then the ghost, I am thy father's spirit, doomed for a certain term to walk the night, and for the day confined to fast in fires. Well, damn, that is not a great fate. That is
No.
a bitter pill to
And I
swallow.
love it. It's for a certain time. Like
Yeah.
he forgot. Hey, forgot how long. Is it 3 months? Is it a year? It's a certain time.
I wonder, like, where's that scene where instructors tell him, well, for a certain amount of time, you'll be down here walking in flames. Eventually, you should go up, not directly like tap your, son spirit on the shoulder, but just kind of go through some guy who barely knows him. Then eventually kind of wordlessly point him over and then kind of speak in a kind of haunted tongue. He's like, hey, do you have a pen, anyone? I need to get all this down.
It's a very complicated
Very complicated. So, somehow he knows this. Doomed for a certain term to walk the night, and for the day confined to fast in fires. I love that alliteration. Fast in fires, till the foul crimes done in my days of nature are burnt and purged away.
Ooh, so good.
Yes, like
so
wow.
good, man. Though the rhythm of that, the sound of that. Now he says, doomed for a certain term to walk the night. So we know he has shown up 3 times to the guards, 1 time with the guards and him. It sounds like he walks the night every night. Like this is what he does. He burns in fire during the day, walks the night at night. So he's always out there.
I was once a king. I did stuff. I was a king. I ruled the land. I fought. But now I'm like burning during the day, miserable. I have nothing to read down here. And then
you know who I am.
I have to walk the night in the same spot. I can't go anywhere else apparently, and have to give hints to these, idiots guards. Like, hey, follow me, but not you. I need. I mean, it's a very odd and depressing backstory, if you ask me. Even if you don't ask me.
No, it does bring up the question that we brought up early on: is what's the rules for the ghost?
Yes.
Where is he allowed to go? Who is he allowed to talk to? Because you're right, he seems to only show up on the battlements, which, if he really only wanted to talk to Hamlet, there must be some rule that he can't just visit Hamlet in his bedroom, that he can't just show up somewhere. Like he has to only show up out on the battlements. So there's some rule there,
closet,
which we're going to find out later.
Yes.
It's going to break all the rules, which might imply that the ghost really isn't there because Gertrude doesn't see the ghost. So perhaps it's just Hamlet's madness. So that'll come up later. But if you establish something, if you're making note of what the rules are, it's very interesting.
Yeah. And then
till the foul crimes done in my days are burnt and purged away. So he has to he has to stay there until the foul crimes done in my days of nature are burnt and purged away. Like that's the first question. If my dad came back in ghost and says, I'm going to burn until all my foul crimes are burned away, I'm going to go, what did you do, man? Like what?
Yeah.
What sins? What happened? Yeah.
And also I'd say, maybe just, this might be too much foreknowledge, but I'd be like, so revenge. Okay, that's cool. How many people are going to die with this revenge thing that I got to do? Is it everyone in the play, including myself? Because then I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it.
Right.
No way, Ghosty. I'm sorry to hear that, but you're done.
Yes, right. And so here he goes again. So notice the next 8 lines are one thought. It's the way the ghost kind of speaks. They are one thought. But that I am forbid to tell the secrets of my prison house. I could a tale unfold whose lightest word would harrow up thy soul, freeze thy young blood, make thy 2 eyes like stars start from their spheres, thy knotted and combined locks to part, and each particular hair to stand on end like quills upon the fretful porpentine. Whew. One
That's
thought.
a
But he's
lot.
saying I could do that, but I'm not allowed to. I'm not allowed to tell you.
He's also saying, I have very limited time, but at the same time, let me tell you explicitly what I cannot tell you.
What,
So
yeah, let me spend time on what I'm not allowed to say.
the ghost and Polonius could hang out because the Polonius
yeah.
say, oh, brevity is a soul of wit and tedious the limbs and outward flimbershes, so I will be brief, but let me go on a little bit.
Yeah.
So, the ghost is a chatty Cathy for someone who's got just a limited time.
He's so happy to have someone to talk to.
Did you read
Yeah.
Harold Bloom's essay, The Ghost is Chatty Cathy?
Yes.
Interviewing with an actual chatty Cathy? Yes, it was very interesting.
Yeah. So, and let's also remember a countenance more in sorrow than in anger. These parts are where people love to get angry, but it's definitely more sorrow. It's definitely more regret, more how did I get here kind of thing. So that gives you that great description of what he could say, but then he ends up not. But this eternal blazon must not be to ears of flesh and blood. List, oh list. All right, I'm listing. I'm listing.
Yes.
Uh,
You don't need to
if
tell me
that-
thrice. Oh, you just
You
did.
don't-
Okay.
you just-
Well, all right. That happened.
If thou didst ever thy dear father love, Hamlet says, O God, revenge his foul and most unnatural murder. And it's no coincidence that the word murder is said 3 times in a row by 2 different people. Murder, most foul.
What's interesting is that he doesn't say murder. He says unnatural murder. Is there a natural murder?
No. Maybe self-defense would be a natural murder. Maybe it's like something that you could explain away. Maybe war is a natural murder. Maybe, I don't know. Or maybe, yeah, you're right. I'm not sure what he means by unnatural murder. But I love that it's unnatural murder, Hamlet murder, ghost murder.
Yes.
Most foul. I love this too. Most foul, as in the best it is. Like murder at its best is wrong.
Yes. In terms of murder, we're not talking, we're talking top shelf murder, the best you could buy.
If we were looking at a chart where good murder, it's foul. But this, I love, he says, but this most foul, strange, and to your point, he says it again, unnatural. Yeah. What does that mean? I don't think I've ever noticed unnatural was there twice within 3 lines. I'm not. Yeah, what's he driving home there?
It's a good question. Perhaps because I'm going to go out on a limb. Is that perhaps because of the nature of the murder? It is is it fratricide? The brother killing a brother.
Oh, I don't know. Is that fratricide? Must be. Yeah.
Because regicide is killing of a king. So I think fratricide is.
Right.
So I think, yes, because of as opposed to an assassin, a random assassin killing, this is blood killing blood.
It's even worse. Yes.
So maybe that is considered unnatural, according to the Ghosty and Shakespeare.
I got you. Cain and Abel. Gotcha.
Yeah.
This most foul, strange. Love this strange and unnatural. Hamlet says
twice. He rhymes foul with foul.
Yeah, that's a prime example of writer's block, I think. Okay. What does foul rhyme?
The best it is, but this most foul, like it's Shakespeare. What's curious about it is that Shakespeare rarely does that. He rarely repeats a word on the next line.
Yeah, murder most foul, as in the best it is, but this most foul, strange and unnatural.
He could have said this most strange and unnatural, and we would have not been any worse.
Right. Yeah, I think maybe he's saying murder is most foul. This is most foul plus strange plus unnatural. So yeah. Hamlet, haste me to know it, that I with wings as swift as meditation or the thoughts of love may sweep to my revenge. So he's already, wow, it's so quick that Hamlet goes, and I always found that in the playing of it too. that I'm already like, let me know, and I'll go revenge. Like I'm ready to go. Like
Had
it's very
Claudius-
quick.
Yeah, if Claudius showed up saying, "Hey guys, what's going on?" Hamlet would have arguably knocked him out. End of play. Like, great, this is
End of
good.
play.
I can go hang out with Ophelia. Thanks so much, everyone.
Yeah. In the moment, in the passionate moment, Hamlet's ready to go. The more Hamlet starts to think about things, he starts to talk his way out of it, talk
Yes.
himself out of it. But here, he's ready. The ghost finishes his line, which I always quote, be very kind and loving and fatherly. I find thee apt.
I've given that some thought because I know we
Yeah.
talked about I find the app before. One thing, the ghost is finishing the line, which makes me think, okay, he's saying I find the apt not because it's what the ghost is thinking, it's in response to Hamlet's yeah. So
Yes.
as meditation or the thoughts of love may sweep to my revenge, I find the apt. Like he's
Yes.
it can be perceived as a compliment. Like
I
great.
think, yes, right. Like Hamlet said the right thing. Yes, right. Like I'm ready to go. Yeah, so I find the apt, he's referring to the act of revenging.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
he's to the act of revenging as told by Hamlet himself, by his own passion, as because he says, I mean, this line cannot be spoken anything other than passion, as meditation or the thoughts of love may sweep to my revenge. Sweep, it's a very passionate word. No one sweeps idly. Unless, I don't know, you're sweeping up some mess that, your son made, I didn't do it. Maybe you might be doing it in anger, but nonetheless, I digress. But
yeah, no, it's true. It's very passionate and ready for the task.
yes, I find the apt, and he's the ghost. What more is he going to say? Gosh, your passion moves me, even though I burn in hell all day and walk the streets at night. God, I feel inspired. You got anything to read? A pamphlet? I'm desperate down there. I need something. So, and the food, don't even. And so the ghost, then kind of doubles down.
Mhm.
Just to make sure. And duller shouldst thou be than the fat weed that roots itself in ease on, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, leafy warp.
I think it's Lath, maybe. I don't know, but but the word lethargy comes from it, so probably leth.
Oh,
maybe,
okay. Lethwarf, wouldst thou not stir in this? So he's like, just know that it's also possible that, anything less than that would be forgetfulness, will be inaction.
Yes.
And Hamlet's like, yeah. So then he switches the beat. Now, Hamlet, here, to give it out that sleeping in my orchards, a serpent stung me. So the whole of Denmark is by a forged process of my death rankly abused, but no.
You have ear. Sorry to interrupt. Do you have the whole of Denmark or the whole ear of Denmark? What do you have?
I'm sorry, I skipped the word ear.
Oh, okay, I'm just making sure. I thought maybe in a text, maybe it's the whole of Denmark, which just happens to be. Yeah.
No, that's my mistake. So the whole ear of Denmark is by a forged process of my death rankly abused. But know, thou noble youth, the serpent that did stun thy father's life now wears his crown. Now, yes, of course he could have just said, now, it's true, you can argue, but also he could have just said, hey, your uncle killed me, yo. He could have just said that, but he takes the longer route. Again, he has a lot of time, but yet takes his time. But right, it's a big.
I mean, that's the big drop. That's the big drop right there. Now, let me ask you, as we go through this, for both of us and for anyone watching this, would you describe the ghost as a representation of Hamlet's father, a surrogate of Hamlet's father, or indeed Hamlet's father? And what I mean by that is how he relates to his son, how Hamlet sees him, because he says, I am thy father's spirit. And then he says, he refers to himself a lot as this happened to me. But is it indeed just a representation of his father? I know I'm maybe splitting hairs here, but I think it makes a difference as to how the ghost or how his father treats his son and how the son treats his father. Like, what does that mean? If I see my father, or if I see the spirit of my father, is that like someone who passed away visiting you in a dream? Is that what that would be like? I'm not sure how real it is.
I definitely don't think it is his father, and particularly in the way Hamlet relates to him later in the scene, almost in a kind of well, it's pretty humorous, as you know, because I think, well, certainly he would not say something like, "I will go no further." You know, he wouldn't say that to his father, and he wouldn't, you know, but at the same token, he buys into it, the ghost appears enough like his father that he believes that he commits to him immediately, that he does what, I mean, the ghost could be lying. He's like, you know, but he says, but he takes whatever the ghost tells him as true pay, doing Polonius quote, but as truth.
Yeah, it's true.
And he's like,
That's
oh, great.
true.
That happened because you said so, even though I don't know if you're from hell or heaven. I'm just going to take your word for it, seeing that you're just like my dad, but not really, because you're a spirit. And my dad didn't really talk like that. And he was less eloquent. He just kind of punched me around a bit.
Okay, and that's kind of where I was going too. Is this how his father spoke, or is this how the spirit speaks? All those questions you have to answer.
Yeah, I think it's the spirit. Because the
spirit,
spirit,
I think so.
As you pointed out, is in sorrow. He's got a crappy afterlife, man. You know, nothing to read, down in the pits of hell all day. You know,
I love that that's first on your list.
Yes.
Always. It's not the tormenting flames. It's the fact that I've got nothing to read.
He's got nothing to occupy his mind. He's got no games, no women down there, and no music to listen to. You know, there's no food, and he's just like, great. At night, I gotta walk back and forth, and while there's smoke and waiting for that, you know, the rooster, the cock-a-doodle-doo. I mean, what the hell kind of life is that? This sucks. So he's not, you know, and so he doesn't. Okay. You got to forgive him if he's not like, oh, my loving son. He's like, I'm in hell. This sucks, dude. Just I'm miserable. Get this done. I am not happy.
Get this done. Yeah. You know? Now, are you connecting, or have maybe you've always connected the fact that I have to continue to do this not until my sins are purged away, but until I am revenged? Does Hamlet killing Claudius mean that Hamlet's father's ghost is now free, or does he still have to walk the night in torment and flames?
Well, I think,
or is it just he's angry and he wants him to go do this?
I think he's probably just angry. No, I think by the disruption of the incestual bed, by the revenge on his murderer, it will give him the entryway to cleanse his soul and move on to the next stage of the afterlife. Okay. It won't purge him of his own sins, which apparently are many. But it will at least clean the sin of the murder because of its unnaturalness. Blood against blood, and even though it's not technically blood, incest. I was going to bring that up too later when he mentions incest, because I think in the way we think about it today, it's not incest. I mean, it's not blood. It's, you know what I mean? Like a brother and the sister-in-law are not, that's not incestual, but he keeps referring to it that way, which is the way kind of he sees it, and the way I guess Hamlet sees it later, because he will refer to it that way as well. So the reason I pointed out ear is just because they're dropping this, the whole ear of Denmark is by a forged process of my death, frankly abused, because we're about to find out that the poison ended up in the ear. But we hear ear of Denmark, which to me is a strange phrase. I think it's going to be strange for a modern audience to hear the phrase ear of Denmark. But it's dropped here before we hear about the poison itself. I think it might have been strange even back in, the 17th, 16th century. Even then,
Yeah.
the people, the folks in the groundlings were like, the groundlings at the top were like, ear of Denmark?
Yeah, hold on.
I think
Hold
they,
on.
they took questions back then, I think, back at the old
In the
club.
middle of the scene, yes,
Yes.
yes, you in the back, you the stinky one.
Yes.
And they all look me. Okay, so here we go, and this is a great, I think, an opportunity to use a line ending. Is the serpent that did sting thy father's life? If you hold that line ending, if you rise it at the end, if you travel up at the end there, then everyone will tune in and listen, and it gives an idea that something very important is coming next, which it is, now wears his crown. And in the next line, what do you take from Hamlet's response? What does Hamlet mean? So did he suspect this, or did he just prophetic, meaning I just never liked the guy?
I think it's all of the above. I mean, right, prophetic is a key word there. And right, I think it gives a slight hint at Hamlet's thoughts about Claudius, his relationship with his uncle, and of course the incestuous deed itself of the king and his mother together, and Hyperion to a satyr. He doesn't think much of Claudius anyway.
Right.
So it's for Hamlet, it's like, yep, that tracks. It's not like Claudius, no, that guy, he's a sweet, lovable old uncle. No, he's like, nope, that makes sense. I mean, Hamlet may have been speaking in hyperbole, but there's still truth in Hyperion to a satyr, or an eye to Hercules. I mean, we're talking about, the antithesis of the greatness of his father. So it's also very egotistical to say, oh, my prophetic soul, like, oh, poor me, or poor me with my knowledge,
Yes.
It's like,
right.
Get over yourself, Hamlet.
Because he does say, he did have that line, my father's spirit in arms, all is not well, I doubt some foul play, meaning he was already suspecting some foul play back in the scene before this. So maybe that prophetic soul, he knew something was up.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. True. But it's an oddly self praise. It's an odd, he doesn't say, I mean, I don't know if Shakespeare wrote that because just to be more specific and poetic, or just to give a self-awareness to Hamlet,
Right.
It works. I say we cut it though.
Yeah, that's right. Let's cut the whole scene. So here he goes again with I that incestuous, which, okay, I get it. I get why we're going with incestuous there.
Oh, before we go further, I'm sorry. I just want to add one thing. I can't help just but note, I mean, it's a minor point, but yes, there are times in Shakespeare where Shakespeare has to kind of do the I can read version for people who are still not getting who now wears his crown.
Yeah.
So,
right.
Oh, my prophetic soul. What? What's he talking about? My uncle.
My uncle.
Okay.
Oh.
Right. So
yes. And it's great. Yeah, it's great.
Okay.
I mean, it's why he puts the word murder 3 times in a row.
Yes.
If you didn't hear it the first time, if you didn't hear it the second time, we're talking about murder.
Murder.
Yeah. I that incestuous, that adulterate beast, with witchcraft of his wits, with traitorous gifts, a wicked wit and gifts that have the power so to seduce. God, what a great, those sounds in there.
Yeah.
With witchcraft of his wit, with traitorous gifts, a wicked wit and gifts that have the power so to seduce. Pretty incredible.
Yes.
The question does come up for me, and it will come up throughout, without what I call playwriting too much, because I mean, you do what you have to for an actor to make these connections, but you don't add it into the play to tell the audience something that's not in the play. But something that does come up is, when did this quote unquote affair, adulterate beast, when did the relationship between Claudius and Gertrude start? And when he's talking about gifts and seducing, was this something that started before King Hamlet was killed, before Claudius killed, right? That makes Gertrude very guilty, or did it not? Or did Gertrude have no feelings for Claudius at all? Or did Claudius have any feelings? Or is it just for Claudius to become king? I don't know. This starts to sound like there was an affair happening when you talk about adulterate beast.
I agree. I mean, King Hamlet was someone who was away a lot on wars.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Claudius was not. So my guess is Gertrude was definitely part, again, I don't know if this is writing, but my feeling is that Gertrude was part of Claudius's plan. First get Gertrude, that kind of makes it a smooth transition. And then the next time my brother's around, I'll do the ear thing, no problem, you know?
Which is also that great Harold Bloom analysis, the ear thing. ...
No problem.
No problem.
Yes. Harold Bloom wrote a lot of books. Yes.
Yes.
That was also my quote in my senior year in high school. It said the ear thing, ... No problem. No one got it back then, not even me. Now I get it.
But it brings up, especially for the actors, playing the actor playing Claudius, the actress playing Gertrude. You think about these things and you discuss now whether the audience picks up on that or not, or what was intended by the playwright. Again, I think the playwright leaves enough room for us to fill in the blanks. It does come up and it does make you think, when did it start? When did these gifts start? When did the seducing start? All that kind of stuff.
So it's a good point. You know, just quick side note, what you just mentioned before, how the playwright left enough room for us to go in a variety of directions.
Yeah.
Why was that style of writing abandoned? Why does nobody do that, or nobody has done that in the last 100 years? Is it that Shakespeare was the only one that had the talent for that? And that since his death in the 17th century, that there has been not a single playwright that has written a text that allowed us, the reader, the player, the audience.
Yeah.
You
know, I will point to, possibly, I feel like you and I at intermission and at the end of Buried Child had a bit of that feeling of, I'm not sure exactly what's going on, but I feel like I get the privilege to try to connect the dots and figure out what the story. I also feel that way in Fool for Love a little bit, that you don't quite know exactly. He doesn't come out and say things straight on. He doesn't come out and exactly say what's going on, but he allows you to be involved in. I think why those plays as well are actor plays too. Actors love doing those plays because the answers aren't laid out there for you. So I think there are some modern writers who dabble in that, but certainly not like Shakespeare. But I also think that's why you and I react certain ways to certain plays that we really like, is because there is some ambiguity in there.
Yeah, I know you're definitely touching on something there. Of course, you and I also know that with Shakespeare, it's more than just ambiguity. It's something else, that it's like this X factor that, unlike, let's say, the almost nonsensible connections that one is trying to make sensible with, like Cowboy Mouth and, you know, and certainly in Buried Child, and plays of no, what's his name? Pinter, any of the Pinter plays.
Sure. Or Willie.
Willie,
Willie.
All right, and Peckett. God, right. We could watch, Happy Days, and we could tear our brains out and try to put a connection between the toothbrush and Willie. Thankfully, we won't be doing that. Not in this episode, at least. But yeah, I think like it's almost like that's like the extreme example. Shepherd.
Yeah.
Pinter.
Well, And I also feel, and I don't know if you feel this way, but with Shepard and Pinter and Beckett, as interesting as they are to me, I always feel like I'm an outsider looking in.
Exactly.
Whereas with Shakespeare, I'm involved and it really speaks to me. I'm not looking in the window at someone else having a crazy time. With Shakespeare, I'm in the middle of it when I'm watching it. And that's the big difference for me.
Huge. And so, nobody's done that since. That might explain, because I know you have asked the question, and in a way we have unconsciously asked it of ourselves, how is it that Shakespeare's plays transcended time and transcended its period, where other playwrights who also wrote at that same time have not as much and have not, it's a complicated answer, but I think that is one of the reasons, is because it allows an openness to have you in the play, to have you be involved, and so that you can make the sensible connections and the very human-like connections and emotions that can fill in the questionable gaps,
right?
If need be, as an actor, as an audience member, director, whatever you want to call yourself, dancer,
right?
So
that's the uniqueness about it. It's not the iambic pentameter. It is beautiful language. It's not that.
Yeah.
It's that we are not only invited, but we are necessary. Our opinion is necessary, and our opinion is asked for as an audience member, as an artist. And boy, that's where you want to be as an artist and as an audience member and as a theater lover. You want to be somewhere where you are required.
Yes.
Yes.
And it kind of in a very brief way answers the question, why Shakespeare now as it was then? It's because of that. It's because it's just no one since, nobody has done that kind of work. It doesn't happen.
Right. So he goes on to say, traitorous gifts, wicked wit, so to seduce one to his shameful lust, the will of my most seeming virtuous queen.
Love that. Seeming virtuous.
Ooh, yes.
I know not seems. It's like
I know not seems.
Yes.
Right. And then he goes on before he tells about how he was murdered. He goes off a little bit on a tangent about how faithful he was in his marriage, how great he was to his wedding vows, and how bad it turned out for him. Oh, Hamlet, what a falling off was there from me, whose love was of that dignity that it went hand in hand, even with the vow I made to her in marriage, and to decline upon a wretch whose natural gifts were poor to those of mine. So he's saying, I was as faithful as the day I met, what I said in the vows, I held that up. And then she's going to go off with a guy who doesn't even stand up to me, not even half as good as me.
Yeah, so Ghost's got ego.
Got ego.
And may also not be telling the truth. Maybe he went with every whore possible and said, well, that doesn't count. I did not inhale.
Right.
In my opinion, that's not
right.
What happens in war stays.
I mean, listen, we've said it before. No one except Hamlet in this play says, I really miss the old king. What a great king he was. We were better off with him. No, not one person says, oh man, we really miss him. We're really sad about him. No one says that.
Yeah.
That's just fact. But virtue, as it never will be moved, though lewdness courted in a shape of heaven, so lust, though to a radiant angel linked, will sate itself in a celestial bed and prey on garbage.
Garbage.
Wow.
I know.
And you're right, and the word garbage.
I know. That I circled that because I was like, garbage? I always marvel when Shakespeare writes things like what? And mentions something as pedestrian as garbage.
Yes. And one of my favorite examples is Rosencrantz saying, there was no stuff in my thoughts.
Yes.
Just stuff.
It's like, it's so rare that Shakespeare, when particularly he is so skillful at choosing particular words to signify other expressions, says this time I'm just going to say garbage.
Garbage.
How many? Often,
Now, is there any way that garbage was a new word back then? Any way that was not a very, like, now we use it all the time, but back then was garbage? Was it a new?
it's possible. It's possible. It might have also been a humorous line too. Maybe it was just, he will say it itself. And I mean, I can't imagine anything with the ghost being humorous,
No.
being garbage, winking at the audience. Oh, let me tell you. I mean, I'd want to see that Hamlet with the ghost like that. So again, he's gone through how many lines? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. He's gone over 10 to 15 lines. And he's like, oh, but softly thinks I sent the morning air, but brief, let me be. Oh, brief, let me
now
be.
you
Too late on that, Ghosty. You've been reading the Polonius playbook in that sense.
Yeah, I was going to say, now we know where Polonius got it from. So if the morning air is coming up, it's what, 5 or 6 a.m.
Right.
Just to point out, right? Just to point out.
They've been talking about
sleep the morning air.
And
So notice, I'd love to read the next. Notice this is 12 lines. This is one thought, and it's 12 lines, and it's fantastic stuff. But this is where you kind of have to keep moving and drive through, and I think punctuation is important. Now, if I also look at let me look at the folio real quick. But virtue will be moved, celestial bed. Yeah, it's the same thing. There's a couple of semicolons in there, but these 12 lines really move in one thought. It's a big section. So he says, now he's going to lay it out. So finally, we're finding out how it happened. Sleeping within my orchard, my custom always of the afternoon, upon my secure hour, thy uncle stole with juice of cursed Hebanon in a vial, and in the porches of my ears did pour the leprous distilment, whose effect holds such an enmity with blood of man that swift as quicksilver, it courses through the natural gates and alleys of the body, and with a sudden vigor it doth posset and curd like eager droppings into milk, the thin and wholesome blood. So did it mine. Ooh, my goodness.
Yeah.
That's pretty incredible.
Incredible and very specific.
Yes.
And it's funny, Shakespeare could have ended it there because that pretty much explains it. But the ghost, he's like, he just goes on.
Yes, how bad, what happened after that? Yes.
And a most instant tetter barked about is it Lazar-like? Like Lazarus?
I think it's Lazar-like. Yeah, I think it's Lazar-like.
Most Lazar-like, with vile and loathsome crust all my smooth body. Thus was I, sleeping by a brother's hand, of life, of crown, of queen, at once dispatched, cut off even in the blossoms of my sin, unhoused. I know, blossoms of my sin, that's a very interesting, what is he talking about there?
Yeah, he was laying in the garden with whores, I guess. I don't know.
Yes.
I don't know.
The blossoms of my sin. There's talk about antithesis, sin and blossoms.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Unhoused, disappointed, and I'm mispronouncing everything now.
No, I think I think it's unannealed is what I've heard. Not having been anointed with holy oil is what I have here. So, yeah.
So yeah, the coast is very concerned, no reckoning made, but sent to my account with all my imperfections on my head, which, as we discussed, are many.
Apparently so.
That's just a big concern that, I didn't get a chance to, confess my sins because I did a lot of stuff. Oh, horrible,
yes, right.
Oh, horrible, most horrible. Another 3 repetition. If thou hast in thee, bear it not.
There's sorry to interrupt. There is a version which I think it's just a directorial choice. I thought maybe it was in the folio, but it's not, where Hamlet takes that middle oh horrible. I think I've seen a couple of people do it. I think Burton does it in the 1964 Broadway production. The ghost says oh horrible, Hamlet says, "Oh, horrible," and the ghost says, "Most horrible," which is really interesting. I love that back and forth, but I don't think there's any basis for it anywhere except Richard Burton just said, "I'd like more lines," and took one. I think
Yeah,
is what happened.
that works.
Yes, but anyway, sorry. Go ahead. If thou hast nature in thee.
If thou hast nature in thee, bear it not. Let not the royal bed of Denmark be a couch for luxury and damned incest. But
Yep.
But so again, it's interesting again. Collateral damage not a consideration in the act of revenge. Just so like as incest, just get rid of it. I don't care how many people have to die. It could be like the whole kingdom of Denmark, just as long as everyone's dead and the incest is taken care of. But
howsomever, yeah.
It's an odd phrase, a vile phrase. But howsomever thou pursuest this act, taint not thy mind, nor let thy soul contrive against thy mother aught. Leave her to heaven and to those thorns that in her bosom lodge to prick and sting her. Very curious line indeed.
I love it that he says I want you to revenge me, but two things don't do. Don't go crazy and don't get mad at your mom. Hamlet goes on to do both of those things.
Yes.
So I think, hey, let me ask you, when you hear the word revenge, does that immediately mean kill, murder, death? Can you revenge without, because nowhere in here does he say kill Claudius. He says revenge. But do you think that's implied?
It's absolutely implied. No one says revenge me by going through the court of law, hiring a solicitor, and filing.
I mean, nowadays, yeah, I know, I get that. But nowadays, if I'm going to get revenge on somebody, it doesn't necessarily mean murder. If I'm going to get revenge on somebody, that means I'm going to get back. I'm going to get even with them.
It depends the context. If you told your wife, I'm going to seek vengeance on Paul, that's not going to be, I'm going to file a writ of complaints, on his clothing, look at me, wife, I'm filing the writs. Vengeance is violence. It is violence. It is not an even thing. Vengeance never implies.
Okay, so you think, so he is right up front saying kill Claudius, even without saying it. He's saying kill Claudius. I love the fact that it's ambiguous. I love the fact that he never says kill Claudius. He never says, he just says, do what you think you should revenge. You should, whatever revenge means to you, kid, you should do it. Yeah.
Well, I wonder what the alternative would be. Like Hamlet, who does he go to? Like Polonius, I don't know. A ghost told me that Claudius killed my dad. What do you think we should do? Let me get back to you on that.
Yeah. What do you do?
What could he have? There was no. It's not like were there any lawyers available in the the court?
Right. What's he gonna do?
Yeah, there's really nowhere he could have gone.
Yeah, you're right. So he asked it right. Taint not thy mind, nor let thy soul contrive against thy mother aught. Leave her to heaven. So this is interesting. He's been talking about adulterate. He's been talking about how he wooed her and she didn't hold up her end of the bargain, the marriage vows. And then he says, but leave her to herself. Like, you just take care of Claudius, let her be taken care of in the afterlife. Like, he doesn't want Hamlet messing with her.
I think that could possibly be the fact that the spirit of Hamlet still has a love for Gertrude, still, and sees her possibly as sort of a half innocent victim in this conspiracy, and that adulterer she may be, but not a murderer, and that it's really the uncle that is the chief villain, which, by the way, Hamlet's reaction to all this is very curious, but we'll get to that in a second. I'm sorry, continue.
Okay, no, great. And to those thorns in her bosom, that in her bosom lodge to prick and sting her, fare thee well at once. And this is one of my favorite lines. The glowworm shows the matin to be near and begins to pale his ineffectual fire. God, I love that. Adieu, adieu, remember me. We'll talk ego. There you go.
But and again, with the threes, he says it 3 times.
Adieu, remember me. Right.
Remember me. And of course, I'm unfortunately scarred for life from the San Diego Globe. Remember me. Hard to, so I'm trying to I don't know if I
And
can get that out of my head.
and also, is there a feeling of this is the ghost only shot to talk to Hamlet? Like if he's confound to walk the night, can he not come back tomorrow night and be like a couple other things? I've given it some more thought. Like, does he
Yes.
only get
I'm
one?
thinking, don't do any of that.
Does he only get one shot at this? I guess.
I think the answer is yes. That, it's kind of, it's kind of a big deal to go from the underworld to the main world. It's like this is his one thing he's allowed to do, and whatever rules, I knew that would fall off, and whatever rules there are in the afterlife.
Yeah.
And that increases the urgency of the moment, though strangely, again, Ghosty takes his time, but still, he only has this one moment and there's no other moments. And the rest,
right.
I agree, later in the play is probably in Hamlet's head. So that remember me, yeah. It's not remember me, but it's he says that for a reason.
Oh,
now we come to this soliloquy. I think we should skip it because it has no meaning. And it ends.
That is it. Okay, so in recap, the ghost showed up, told Hamlet, "Your uncle killed me by pouring poison in my ear, and I would like you to revenge my murder, and try not to go crazy and don't yell at your mother." Pretty much.
Like, got it. I will not forget that part. And then he's like, wait, what did he say again? Anybody take any notes while Ghost was around?
Oh, my tables. All right, let's go in. Will you read the soliloquy or some of it
Sure.
for us?
Oh, all you hosts of heaven, oh earth, what else? And shall I couple hell, oh fie? Hold my heart, and you, my sinews, grow not instant old, but bear me stiffly up. Remember thee? Aye, thou poor ghost, whilst memory holds a seat in this distracted globe. Remember thee? Yea, from the table of my memory. I'll wipe away all trivial fond records, all saws of books, all forms, all pressures past, that youth and observation copy there, and thy commandment all alone shall live within the book and volume of my brain, unmixed with baser matter. Yes, by heaven. Oh, and this is the line that gives me pause. Oh, most pernicious, not man, woman.
Yeah, he talks about his mother first before he even gets to Claudius.
What? That again, very interesting.
It's what we said. Two solid flesh is not so much about Claudius. That speech is about his mom.
Yes, he's got some serious edible mommy stuff going on there. Oh, and then, by the way, villain, smiling, damned villain. My table's meat it is, I set it down, that one may smile and be a villain. At least I am sure it may be so in Denmark. So Uncle, but no, mine says he writes. What?
Yeah, it's meat it is, I set it down. It's him taking notes. My tables, it's like him.
What note is he writing down? Like, kill the king. Okay, got it. Now I don't forget.
Right.
Yeah. And this is my favorite line, top 5 in the play. So, Uncle, there you are. I love that line.
Well, Paul, I'm telling you, your instincts are right, because it was one of my favorites to say every night. That was the one. I always said this is the speech that kind of launches you into playing Hamlet.
Yes.
But particularly so, Uncle, there you are. Oh man, your instincts are right, because it's the best.
It's the best. It's so simple, yet it says everything, particularly, and it also kind of gears up our hope of what Hamlet will do. We're thinking,
yes,
wow, this is going to be quite some revenge. Watch out, Uncle. Some crazy stuff's going to happen. Now to my word, it is adieu, adieu, remember me. Nope, it is adieu, adieu, adieu.
Adieu, remember forgotten me.
That's the problem right
That's
there.
funny.
I have sworn. Yeah. So
What do you take from that soliloquy? It's his second out of 7.
it's it's funny. There's a part of me, of course, it's like, well, it's a revelation of that part of Hamlet who is a man of action, who will be given a command or a task and execute it immediately. It's a soliloquy of passion and hubris, which is truthful in that moment only, and that he believes
Yeah.
it. It's a funny thing about truth. A lot of times experience this in life itself, where someone says, I'll call you in 10 minutes. And of course, you never hear from them ever again. But in that moment, they really did believe they will call you in 10 minutes. There was no lying, technically. And so Hamlet wasn't being boastful. He sincerely believed, riled up as he was, yes, there you are, Uncle. Oh, boy, you got something coming for you, buddy.
Right. And what's great is he does it again later, exactly what you are saying. And he calls himself out on it. In Rogue and Peasant Slave, he says, treacherous, lecherous, kindless villain, oh vengeance, and then says, why, what an ass am I? Yes. He looks at himself and goes, what do I think I'm doing? So exactly what you're saying.
He speaks passionately about, I now have laser-like focus on this revenge. Everything else has been cleared out of my mind. I am going to do this. And then, then he's like, he's like, God, I'm hungry. Anybody got food or anything or something to drink? I'm just gonna, I need a few drinks before I do this. But is that cool? Yeah.
I'm still gonna do it. I'm still gonna do it.
Trust me, but man's got to eat, man, before we revenge. Got to have some food in the stomach.
I don't want to pull a hammy. I just want to get stretched out.
Exactly. I got to do some stretching beforehand. Man's got to stretch. A lot of extend those arms.
So what you pointed out is what I think is important to point out for the person playing Hamlet and for the director and for the audience members, is that he does say, "Oh, most pernicious woman," is what he says before he talks about Claudius. Look, the clues are there. It's consistent with his first soliloquy. I'll say that. Why he says it, I don't know. I mean, why he says it, I think it's worth exploring. I mean, there's one of the largest scenes in this play is him and his mother, right? That's one of the biggest in this play is him. So that's something to definitely, it's not, from the beginning, it's not all about Claudius.
Yeah. Yes, it's something that I have taken for granted a lot when I've gone through the play, seen the play, worked with your workshop. The importance of that. It's not, in addition to, yes, Hamlet and Ophelia, Hamlet and Polonius, Hamlet, the ghost, Hamlet, his father, Hamlet, Claudius, but the key, the core, Hamlet, Gertrude, Hamlet, his mother.
It's what Olivier kind of locked in on.
Oh yeah,
right? Olivier locked in on that relationship as well. You really have to explore that. He's really and it's like I said, it is consistent with the first soliloquy.
Yes.
Yeah. So Uncle, there you are now to my word. So yeah, I love that. I'm going to clear everything. And people will point out that there's a little meta play on words, and while its memory holds a seat in this distracted globe, knowing that people were sitting at a theater called the Globe at the time is interesting. I mean, that may go over people's, who knows if it was intended or not, but it's pretty cool. Yeah.
I still want to see a Hamlet where he writes and, we see like on a screen, what's he's writing, like kill Uncle, leave mommy alone.
I've seen him pull out a book, pull out a little book and write something, which I think is taking the point too far. It's like he's just saying, remember this, remember your task, is what he's saying. My tables, meat it is, I set it down. People have taken that literally.
It's an odd stage direction, probably not in the quarto. I mean, I'm assuming this is a folio.
No. I mean, the folio has basically no stage directions at all. Yeah,
Yeah. So
it seems to be a. I mean, maybe I'll have to check my side by side and see if it's in the Cordo, but it just seems to be a modern text thing, which I just think is ridiculous. I think the rights thing is dumb.
it is, because he says within the book and volume of my brain. He doesn't
Of my
write
brain.
anything down. It goes against the text.
Yes, exactly. Of my brain. Yes. Let me just see. Just because I'm curious, give me 1 minute here. Oh, you host of heaven, here it is. So I'm looking at Quarto 2. All you hosts of heaven, oh villain, villain, smiling, damned villain. I'm almost there. That one may smile, and there's no stage direction.
Yeah.
There's no stage direction in this. No. I just think, why would a modern editor put the word rights? Like, I don't know.
Particularly when it's not like he says, my table is meted as I set it down, that one may smile and be a villain. At least I'm sure it may be so in Denmark. Great, that's a great line. Where do I put that? I mean,
at least, yeah. I want to see somebody write and then go back. Well, at least
I am sure it may be so in Denmark. You know, I could get a play out of this. I'm thinking a play. Dude,
oh, that's so funny. So, okay, so time has passed in some way, right? The ghost showed up at midnight. The ghost left when the sun came up. And so you could imagine there was some supernatural passage of time, that Horatio and Marcellus had been looking for Hamlet for hours, and that Hamlet and the ghost were caught in some kind of time warp thing. So now they have come upon him. We hear from off, depending upon what text you look at, we hear my lord, either from Horatio or from both of them, Marcellus, Lord Hamlet. So they're calling out to him as if they've been searching for him. And depending upon how the actors play it, depending upon how it's directed, how long they've been searching for him. Heavens secure him. Is that when he sees Hamlet? When not? Are they still calling out? The aside, Hamlet's aside, so be it. Do you see that?
I don't have it as an aside. Is it an aside?
In this in the Arden here that I'm looking at, they have it as an aside. Like, they're calling out for him and he just kind of says it. He's kind of still finishing his soliloquy, or maybe it is in response to heavens secure him and he's saying, so be it. I think in the folio, it's Marcellus's line. So it's all over the place. Yeah.
And so
be it.
We have this odd moment, you know, Marcellus, illo, ho, ho, my lord, illo, ho, ho, boy, come. So
yeah.
Hamlet already has taken a little bit of a turn here.
Yeah. Well, oh boy, come. What?
Yes, he's gone from I will seek revenge of my father to, oh, come here. Like all of a sudden, he's back away from the ghost, away from his own hubris, and he is like kind of making fun of his companions. You know, it's like, oh yes, but just swear. And then Hamlet seems like he's already acting insane, or has already gone.
Yes, he gets right. He gets very giddy, coy, intoxicated with this news, right?
It's as if he was in another sphere with the ghost, and he's like, I know what I have to do. And then he wakes up from the dream of dreamlike state of that, and he's like,
yes.
Oh my God, this is crazy, guys. Okay, hey, ho, 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 hey.
It's Ebenezer Scrooge after he's been visited by all things. He's dancing in his pajamas in the streets.
And he's passing out turkeys to every crippled child, you know, in the streets. Because, and he stays that way for the rest of the scene.
Oh, he does. Oh, yeah. Right. So, until the very end, the very last moment, he gets this line of like, oh, cursed spite that ever I was born to set it right. But he plays this intoxication. Yeah, it's really, so let's talk about this. Let's break down these lines, because it gets really it gets strange. Yes, it gets strange, it gets silly, and there's a lot of questions in there. So So you're right. He teases his friend by saying, "Hilla, oh boy, come bird, come." They find him. "How ist my noble lord? What news, my lord?" And I always liked playing this as like you and the audience are kind of in on a laugh that Horatio and Marcellus are not in on. The "oh wonderful" is really, and I love that. "Oh wonderful" is that his response. "Good my lord, tell it. No, you will reveal it." Immediately he says to Horatio. Immediately he says,
Why
no.
do we know? Why do we know he says this to Horatio? Because Horatio is not to be trusted. Of course. He doesn't even consider trusting Horatio with. And by the way, it's very curious. Hamlet does not tell Horatio, and let alone Marcellus, what he and the ghost talked about. And he's like, "I want you to swear that none of this happened, but I'm not going to tell you what the ghost told me. I'm not going to tell you that the ghost told me my uncle killed my father."
Yes. Now, you and I know later on in the play, he tells Horatio.
Much
later. But here is his response. His immediate response is, "No, you'll tell someone else because you can't keep a fucking secret."
And also, you're not trustworthy. You're crazy. You're here. You're not. How long have you been in Denmark? Are you from here? Do we even know each other? Who are you exactly? It tracks for me. It tracks to me.
No, you will reveal it, not I, my lord, by heaven. Horatio throws Marcellus under the bus a little bit by saying, "Well, I won't tell anyone." And Marcellus goes, "Well, me either." Nor I.
Well, because Horatio is very selfish and out for himself, doesn't really care about anyone. It's quite obvious through the entire play, very consistent. But then Hamlet still in that, "I am Ebenezer Scrooge, passing out turkeys to cripples. How say you then? Would heart of a man once think it? Would heart of man once think it? But you'll be secret." Like, what? What is he talking about?
Yes, he's talking in riddles now. Yes.
"Would heart of man once think it? But you'll be secrets." What is going on there?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I'm looking at the folio here. Yes, there's no, how say you then, would heart of man once think it? Would heart of man. So in the folio, it's like there's two question marks. Would heart of man once think it? Question mark. But you'll be secret? Question mark. And in what I have in this modern text, it's more of like a continued line. So I don't know.
This one, the Folger, "How say you then, question mark, would heart of man once think?" Next line, "it, question mark." Next line, "but you'll be secret."
Wow.
Would
heart of man once think it? That's really interesting.
It's Hamlet is like, I'm going to be combination of happy Ebenezer Scrooge and the entire text of Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead. I'm going to be really kind of enigmatic and strange and playful, but I'm also going to be like curiously happy. So
yeah.
Method of madness.
Yeah, I tell you, between this, it was always this scene and the scene with Rosencrantz and Guildenstern were my favorite scenes to play, because I think there was so much to figure out within them.
Oh yeah,
they felt new every single night. Yeah,
but you'll be.
And secret. So they, by heaven, yeah. I don't know. Would heart of man once think it? But you'll be secret.
Question.
And they say, I by heaven. They both say, "I by heaven." Well, at least there they say, "I by heaven." Both of them. Yeah, it's in the folio as well. But so then he goes, okay, so he's asking them, "You'll be secret?" They say, "Yes, we'll keep it a secret." And then he says, "There's never a villain dwelling in all Denmark, but he's an errant knave." So he almost like sets them up just to fool them. Like, "All right, gather in, I'm going to tell you the secret. There's a real knave in Denmark. Ha ha ha. Like I fooled you." Some like to play it as if he is going to tell, but then he changes his mind. There's ne'er a villain dwelling in all Denmark, but it's the king himself. The king himself is a murderer, but he decides to go, "But he's an errant knave." That's an old Kevin Kline thing that he does. He likes to pretend he's going to say it and back off and not say it. I don't know. I don't know how to play it.
I don't know either. And I also wondering the whole time, why doesn't he tell Horatio or Marcellus? Why must that also at that point in the play be a secret? When by the time Hamlet tells Horatio, is it play within the play, or is it when he comes back from England?
It's play with it. It's right before the play within the play. He says to him, there'll be a scene in this play that comes very close to the situation that I told you of the murder of my father.
So why then not now?
That's a great question. I think you're right. The actor has to answer that. I always felt in playing it that I was on my own, that I was singular. This is a real interesting thing that I have felt both times playing Hamlet. It starts to happen in rehearsals even. You start to, and this may sound like not a big deal, but it ends up being very telling. In the rehearsal process, you're rehearsing 6 days a week, 8 hours a day or whatever. You start to find that you don't hang out with the rest of the cast for some reason. You only talk to the actor playing Horatio, and you tend to be, one, because you're looking at more stuff. Two, because you know the weight is on your shoulders. But I've always felt like early on in this play, I was singular. I was on my own. No one's in this with me. Until later on when I look to Horatio and say, in my heart of hearts, right? And he kind of tells how much he loves Horatio. And then later on when he comes back. But I feel at this point, he still feels alone. He feels singular. And that's the only thing that I can point to. And it's how I feel when I do this. I don't feel like I'm in this with anybody else. I'm in it on my own. That's the only thing I've got.
I like that. That tracks.
Yeah.
Horatio responds, there needs no ghost, my lord, come from the grave to tell us this, of course, because he takes one to know one. He knows he himself is an errant knave. So this is where I have another question. Why don't could you read this next passage? Why right you are in the right?
Yes. So he says, yes, why right? You are in the right. And so without more circumstance at all, I hold it fit that we shake hands and part. You, as your business and desire shall point you, for every man hath business and desire, such as it is. And for my own poor part, I will go pray, which always gets a laugh in the theater.
Yeah.
So he's saying, I can't talk about this anymore. You, whatever you need to go do, whatever. And he says it later, a scholar or a soldier, like, you go do your thing, we have to walk away, and I'm going to go ask heaven what I need to do next, because my mind is tripped out right now.
Yeah.
So he's basically saying, you guys go, and Horatio is like, whoa, why are you talking like this? And then Hamlet says, look, I'm sorry I'm talking like this. Yes, Faith, I'm sorry that I offend you. Horatio says, no, you don't offend me. There's no offense. And Hamlet goes, oh, there is definitely offense, meaning the murder of my father. Yeah.
It was
interesting.
Hey, these are but wild and whirling words, my lord, which is odd because nothing Hamlet says is wild or whirling. He says, because one could look at it as, I hold it fit that we shake hands and part. You, as your business desire, shall point you. For every man hath business and desire, such it is. In my own part, I will go pray. There's nothing.
Yeah, it's very logical.
Yes, it makes a lot of sense. But I guess maybe given to circumstance, or maybe it points to how Hamlet is saying these lines. These are but wild and whirling words, my lord. I'm sorry they offend you heartily. And then he repeats heartily again. Yes, Faith, heartily. Like he thinks on what he's like so self-conscious.
Yes.
He can't even, I'm sorry they offend you heartily. Yes, Faith, heartily. Like he can't even, speak or think without giving it a second thought.
Right. I think that's a good point. Where his mindset is. It's like pointing out all the line interruptions in Two Solid Flesh gives you an idea of where his mindset is. And in this, gives you an idea of where his mind is.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
already he's shrinking from the giant warrior he was just a couple of lines before talking to the ghosts. He's like, yeah, I'm sorry they offend you heartily. Yeah, Faith, heartily.
I've got to go pray. Yeah.
Yeah, gotta go pray. There's no, and of course, when Horatius says there's no offense, my lord, it's an interrupted line.
Yeah. There's no
Horatio,
offense. Yeah.
being a kiss ass that he is just trying to appease, his king. He probably wants some money or something.
That's right. Yes, and much. So yes, by St. Patrick, but there is ratio much of it touching this vision. I love that he calls it a vision there. Doesn't call it a ghost. Touching this vision here, and here he goes. It is an honest ghost. That let me tell you. So interesting. It's an honest ghost, meaning I believe everything that he says. For your desire to know what is between us, or master it as you may. That's pretty great too. Like, I know you want to know what we talked about, but that desire that you want to know, you're gonna have to deal with it and hold it, because I can't tell you. And now, good friends, until he's going to repeat himself. He's going to say it again. All right. As you are friends, scholars, and soldiers, give me one poor request. What is my lord? So here he goes. So first of all, he was like, let's all separate. You go your way, I'll go my way. And then he says, oh, before we go, you've got to swear you can tell no one what just happened.
Wow. I always wondered why
they have to swear.
Because, okay,
I think the whole thing too, it's why he's going to put on the antic disposition. I think maybe if he's going to get a jump on Claudius, or if, there just can't be a rumor out there that a ghost was walking around that looked like, if this is a time where people believe in ghosts, a time and a place where we believe in spirits and believe in ghosts, he doesn't want it getting back to Claudius or getting back to anyone that the ghost of his father is walking around talking to people.
And then what's the worst case scenario? It gets around, everybody knows, then what happens?
Well, then Claudius knows that Hamlet knows what really happened, right? And then he, you know what I mean? Like, so now Hamlet's job now is to kind of sneak up on Claudius. And I think he feels like if it's between the three of us now, he's got a job to do. He's got to figure out how to do it. And we've got to keep it quiet, because I don't want anyone to know that I'm sneaking up on Claudius. So I'm going to put on this antic disposition to try to sneak up on Claudius, I guess. Yeah.
And again, I'm just being a fool, as always, otherwise known as Wednesday. One could also argue, even still, one does not need to sneak up on Claudius in order to confront him. Let's say the goes about, hey, Hamlet was talking with the ghost of the father, and the ghost said, right now he hasn't even told them what the ghost said, because they have no clue. So just the rumor is Hamlet's talking with his father's ghost, and that's all Claudius finds out.
Right.
Or
what if it's just the fact that Hamlet's talking to ghosts? He doesn't want people to think he's talking to ghosts. I don't know, whatever it is. I also think it is possibly 90 seconds from seeing a ghost. So I don't know that it's all that well thought out either. I think it's all reactionary. That's how I felt. I think it's all reactionary.
Yes.
It's like, no, I can't tell you. I want to tell you. You go. No, don't go. Swear that you won't talk about it. It happens so fast, I think, too.
Yes.
So I don't know. I don't know what the answer there is.
But what you just said makes the most logical sense. It gives it an urgency, like, okay, yeah, don't anyone that's happening. So this is my burden, and I won't talk about it. Thank you.
Right.
Swear.
Yes.
Mind. Never make known what you have seen tonight, my lord. We will not, nay, but swear it in faith, my lord. Not tonight. All right, my lord, in faith, upon my sword. Why does it have to be upon a sword? I don't know. It looks good, right?
It makes a great poster.
Yes. And Marcellus is like, well, it's funny. Marcellus is like, well, we have sworn, my lord, already. Like, he's like, what? We don't. It's curious that Marcellus, well, people be like, well, he's like, nah, indeed, upon my sword, indeed. And Hamlet's like, I don't care. And then the ghost, why does the ghost wake up from his fiery furnace? He's like, yeah, swear it, I tell you. It's like, what?
So I always thought it was the ghost, I mean, listen, this is what's great about seeing multiple versions of this play. You will see multiple answers to these questions. And that's what's great, right? It's fantastic. And no one knows the answer. I always felt that the ghost saying swear was what sealed the deal. So Hamlet says, swear. And they say, I swear, my lord. And nothing happens. So he says, upon my sword, like we're not getting it, upon my sword. And they put their hands on the sword and the ghost says, swear. And that first one is done. So now they have to move to another.
Is still there. I thought he had to skip because go back to the fiery furnace. And apparently there's like a loudspeaker down in that purgatory.
In the purgatory.
Whole conversation's like, okay, get to it. Yeah. I want to see a Hamlet the ghost waiting there with nothing to read, reading like the one document. He's like listening. He's like, swear. He's like, give me the microphone. Swear.
Yeah, it's true. What are the rules? I have no idea.
And so then it's weird. And then Hamlet again goes really coy. He's like, ha ha, boys, sayest thou so? Art thou there? True pity? Like now
I know, crazy. Yes.
It's now comedy time. It's now like, I'm gonna have some fun. I've gone insane. I'm like wired with confusion. And and again, this is not the way he would speak with his father. He would speak with his father's spirit, though, like this.
Yes, right. And listen, it's written, you do feel that way. Coming out of angels and ministers of grace defend us, and the ghost telling you his story, and then, oh, all you hosts of heaven, you as an actor feel exactly the way this scene is written.
Yeah.
It's incredible. Yeah, right. So then he says, so they hear him, come on, you hear this fellow in the cellarage, consent to swear, and then right on top of that line, propose the oath, my lord. Horatio's ready now. He's ready to go now. Never to speak of this that you have seen, swear by my sword. The ghost, swear. Hic et ubiqua, then we'll shift our ground. Come hither, gentlemen, and lay your hands again upon my sword. Swear by my sword. Never to speak of this that you have heard. So I'd like to point out here, people think that they keep getting it wrong and they're chasing the ghost. It's three different things that they're swearing. They're swearing never to speak of this that you have seen, never to speak of this that you have heard, and that you know aught of me is the third one. Oh. So it's three different things. So people think, oh, they keep chasing it. They have to. Also, you'll see it directed in a way where they go to put their hands on it, but they get scared and they back off, and they don't put their hands on it until the third one. It's like, no, you have to swear to all three of those things. And Hamlet keeps making up another one, right? He says, swear that you'll never speak of what you've seen. And he goes, oh yeah, swear I've never heard. And the ghost keeps saying, there's more to do, there's more to do. So it's three different things that they're swearing to.
And yet there's no dialogue of them swearing. There's no stage direction of them swearing. It's,
yes,
you can understand how a director could be mistaken into thinking that it's still a matter of them convincing Marcellus and Horatio to make the oath.
Yeah, I think you're right. Except if you just read the line, right?
Who does that?
Never to speak of this that you have. Yes, right. And so the ghost says, swear by his sword. Well said, old mole. Canst thou work in the earth so fast? A worthy pioneer. Once more, remove good friends. And then we're going to get one of the famous setups for one of the famous lines. So yes. He is acting crazy. He's moving around. They're having to do this swearing. Oh, day and night, but this is wondrous strange. And therefore, as a stranger, give it welcome. And in the Arden, it says, there are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamt of in your philosophy. In the folio, it says, there are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamt of in our philosophy, which I tend to like a little better.
Oh. Well,
I tend to like our better than your. Your seems like an attack. Our seems my whole world, what I thought the world was, is not. My whole mind has changed.
Needless to say, considering my love for Horatio, I prefer your. Because
yeah, I bet you do.
Yeah, I'm thinking, Horatio, there are more things in heaven and earth that are dreamt of in your philosophy, his limited understanding. But also, and I think it makes sense too, because Hamlet has experienced something that Horatio has not.
Yeah.
In addition, I mean, Horatio may have seen the ghost, but Hamlet has conversed with the ghost, has learned information from the ghost. And well, right. I mean, yeah. I mean, our absolutely works, and probably has more depth than your. But fuck it, your is the way to go, man.
Well, your is what you hear all the time. It's certainly what you hear the most. Yeah.
And by the way, there's a similar line in The Tempest. Doesn't Prospero have a line? Maybe has something, stuff that dreams are made. What's the line in the? I forgot if Tempest
yes.
Before or after.
Yes, right. Yeah, there definitely is.
Reminds me of that. It's a great line though.
Yeah.
That's a good question about hour. And which version has hour?
The folio, which I tend to go with the folio more often. I always liked saying hour because it just felt like I was changing the way I saw the world. Like all the things that you and I used to talk about, Horatio, all the things that we agreed on. There's so much more than that. And it always felt like I was learning something new when I said hour, rather than dreamt of in your philosophy, felt like I had maybe something I had said to him before. I don't know, but you do hear your a lot more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then Hamlet continues, but come here as before, never so help you mercy, how strange or odd. Somewhere I bear myself, as I hereafter shall think me to put an antic disposition on that you. So it's a very odd moment, because Hamlet is that you at such time see me never shall with arms encumber thus, or thus head shake, or by pronouncing of some doubtful phrase. It's like, not only are they swearing not to say anything, but they can't even, like, he's saying, don't even think about it. Don't even like give a physical, like, we know.
Yeah, no winking, no. Yes. And I love that this whole little speech here, like, you have to be really good at knowing where the thought is, or you'll get lost in it. Like, there's so many kind of parentheses inside parentheses, which is exactly Hamlet's mindset at the moment. Keeps interrupting himself, and
Hamlet's examples are so weird. As well we know, or we could, and if we would, or if we list to speak, or there be, and if they might. Like, when are they going to say that? I bet even Horatio probably. I want to see a Hamlet where Horatio's like, believe me, that was not. Yeah. Don't worry about that.
I've never said that in my life, Hamlet.
Yes, and now I'm definitely not going to say it. It's very curious choice of expressions. That I don't know, a lot of makes me wonder why it's there. Is it to emphasize Hamlet's, I guess, as you mentioned before, roving mind, raving.
Yeah, there's a frenetic energy. I mean, I think you have to have that last. I mean, he has to have them swear that you can't give me away, because I'm going to put on antic disposition. You have to swear that you won't mention that you know what I'm doing. What's great too is this early on, he's already, as frenetic as his mind is, he's already coming up with the idea of putting on the antic disposition. This early on, he's already saying, I'm going to act crazy. And he'll continue to talk about that even up to the closet scene, where he says, right, where even in the closet scene, he says, I'm feigning madness. Like, this becomes a thing, and it was born this early on. So yeah, I think it gets away from him. I think he pulls a Polonius here, where he says, don't say with any, arms encumbered thus, or thus head shake, or by pronouncing, it's like, we got it. And it gets away from him very quickly. Or such ambiguous giving out to note that you know aught of me. This do swear, so grace and mercy at your most need help you. And then the final one.
Still listening. The ghost is listening. He's
Yes.
actively listening. He's like, okay, yep, sounds good. Swear.
Yeah. I don't know the rules. Yes, it goes is like, well, except for that last weird part. Yeah, swear.
I would say Rex where they
Boy, that got weird.
yeah. Before that, yes. Before that straight. Hey, but who says there be and if they might? No one says that.
There be and if they might. Yes, and then it goes like, well, I can't be all in on that one.
Exactly. For the most part, you get the gist of it.
You
God,
get
it's
the
hot
gist.
here. Isn't there a television program or something I could watch? Gosh, there's nothing to do.
So in the folio, they don't have all that punctuation, which is interesting. I don't know if that changes anything.
Huh.
But he said, by pronouncing some doubtful phrase as well, we know, or we couldn't if we would, or if we list to speak. It almost feels like without that punctuation, that he's not quoting them. I think the quoting them is fun. It's really fun to play.
Oh,
But
yeah.
it's almost as if he's looking right at them and saying, we know, or we could, and if we would. In other words, between you and me, we could talk about this if we would. If we were to list to speak, if we were to speak to each other, if there be, and if there might, like if there was a time, or such ambiguous giving out to notes. So in the folio, it's not as clear as these kind of modern texts where they put all this punctuation in it. But I do see what they're doing there, and it is fun to play it that way. So then rest, perturbed spirit, which is nice.
Rest, perturbed. So, gentlemen, with all my love, I do command me to you, and what so poor a man as Hamlet is may do to express his love and friending to you. God willing, shall not lack. Let us go in together, and still your fingers on your lips, I pray. Like, if I didn't say it enough already, we should have it
Shut
gotten
up.
picture. Just do that. The time is at a joint, oh cursed spite that ever I was born to sit it right. Now, here's a part that I always found curious.
Mm-hmm.
The act, the scene, arguably could end right there, because so often in Shakespeare he ends a scene with a rhyme, or it ends with a moment. But then
Right, a rhyming couplet. Yeah.
it goes, nay, come, let's go together. So I guess is that the fact that he adds that, nay, come, let's go together, is that in just thinking about the theater and sort of a stage directionally kind of line, or is it more, again, giving the theater goer and the actor insight into Hamlet's mind that ever I want to say it right, hey, come, let's go together. I mean, it's a curious afterthought to the finish.
It certainly feels that way. You're right. And you know, another thing I'm noticing is you always see, and I think I've always played it this way, the time is out of joint, oh cursed spite that ever I was born to set it right. It's always played as an aside. Hamlet saying it kind of to himself, but there's nothing in the text that says it's an aside. There's nothing that says, it looks very much like part of the speech to the guy. He says, and still your fingers on your lips, I pray, the time is out of joint, oh cursed spite that ever I was born to set it right. And then the nay, come, let's go together makes more sense if he's saying that rhyming couplet to the guys instead of to himself out to the audience.
Right.
And I really like that. I think in questioning that last line, maybe we've gotten the rhyming couplet wrong all this time. I think maybe he's looking right at them and saying, something's wrong, and God damn it if it's not my job to fix it. So let's go in together. Yeah, it's really interesting. There's nothing in here that says, it doesn't even say aside like sometimes it does.
Another thing I just noticed is that since the ghost himself tends to repeat actual lines of dialogue, I'm just paraphrasing, like, that was a fool. Yes, it was a fool, and more.
Yeah.
So Hamlet himself does it because he goes, God willing, shall not lack. Let us go in together. And then 4 lines later, it ends with, nay, let's go together. So it's so maybe that might be a key, a reason why, is that he's going in because he's still making this, micro decisions in his mind. And so, he's so he's in one kind of determined mode, and then turns the ship further to the right. Nay, come, let's go together. Sort of reinforcing his previous thought. So it's like
Yeah, I think that's great. And I would totally play with that in rehearsal and right. What's the nay?
yes. Well, again, nay could also be, again, it's another turn. He has one idea, the time is out of joint, oh cursed sprite that ever I was born has said it right. New thought, nay, come, let's go together.
Nay. Yes, back to what he was saying
Yes.
previously. He was saying,
Yes.
let's go together, and goes, oh, be quiet. Oh, I can't believe this is my nay. Let's go back to what I was saying. Let's go together.
Yes.
Oh, that, you know what? When you add that together, it makes sense rather than breaking it up as an aside, rather than it actually makes sense if you just kind of do it as it's on the page. I was reading in something, and I gotta say, I didn't quite understand what they were saying, but they were talking about what a great last line, first line combination is here. And I don't know why, what they were pointing at, which I'm a big fan of taking the last line of the previous scene and the first line of the next scene together. And it was one of these, it was Harvey Grant or someone saying, nay, come, let's go together and give him this money and these notes, Ronaldo, are two really good lines to put right together. And I'm not sure why. I mean, I like putting those lines together, but I'm not sure how those two relate to each other.
Not yet.
Rather, other than maybe seeing Polonius, seeing all that, but nay, come, let's go together. Give him this money and these notes, Ronaldo. I mean, it seems like a big shift. It's a really big shift, which I always like to put those right on top of each other. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know why that was pointed out that way.
No, it's curious too. So we'll talk about Act 2 next time, but it is interesting that we have such the most important scene in the play, possibly, or one of the most important plays.
Sure.
In the play is followed by one of the least important, or maybe the least important scene in the play.
Gets cut constantly.
Yes.
Right. It's always cut. Yeah, you're right.
So it's like, I feel like,
is it a breather? Is like Shakespeare giving us a breather?
Maybe, or Act 1 is so stuffed with so many different things. Maybe it's just like, okay, let's kind of reassess things and put something completely forgettable with a character nobody cares about. I mean, any Ronaldo
which never comes back. Never comes back.
back.
He sends him on a mission. He's like, tell me this, and then we never hear the end of that story.
Well, because he took the money, and that was the end of that. He's like, I got this money to spend it. It's weird. It's as if Shakespeare was exhausted from Act 1. He's like, I don't know what I'm going to do in Act. I don't know. Here, take this money. Figure out what's going on with Laertes. Yeah, I don't know. And
it feels like that scene with Reynaldo feels like one of those writing exercises where they're like, just start writing and see where it goes. Because especially the part where he gets to closes in the consequence, where he's like, what was I going to say? Closes in the consequence. Like, yes. It's really funny. It's like, yeah.
And in terms of directing it and having one action after the next, so you have the import of every single scene in Act 1, all 5 scenes, each one very important. I mean, though you can, you need the Laertes, Polonius.
Oh, yeah.
As a setup, absolutely. Each one of more or less equal import. And then it's like the play does its first dip,
Yes.
And it possibly, again, as you might have said, breather. Shakespeare realizes that the audience can only take so much.
Yeah.
It needs something trivial, something forgettable, just to kind of, because you can't go, I mean, right, he could have gone from Act 1 into the scene with Claudius on his knees and Hamlet's, it would have been, very heavy. And I mean, what do you think? I mean, so imagine that he did do that. What would we have lost?
Yeah, I think you're right. I gotta say, we rarely see Polonius and Reynaldo. We rarely see that scene.
Yes.
I don't know. Now that we're taking it really slowly and step by step, and I'd really like to see that scene. After
know.
everything that we went through, I'd
Yes.
like to see Polonius doing his Polonius thing for a second before Ophelia comes in hysterical. It's like,
Right.
give us a moment of Polonius doing his thing. Yeah.
Right. I'm looking forward to going through Act 2, Scene 1. I wonder how long it is. My lord, I've been so frightened. Is my liege and madam in Act 2, Scene 1?
I think that ends up being Act 2, Scene 2, I think.
But we have
because Rosencrantz and Guildenstern show up, and then my liege and madam. So Act 2, Scene 1 is Reynaldo, and then Ophelia entering.
And then my lord, I've been so frightened. Yes, and then Ophelia comes in and says, "Come to hide the utter love, come." So we just went through, arguably the pivotal scene in Act 1.
Yeah.
And so now we're in the least pivotal scene of Act 2. Makes sense. You need a hierarchy of scenes, and the Ronaldo beat is, superfluous, but at the same moment, it gives an opportunity for Ophelia to come in, interrupt the moments, and then impart onto the next beat of the play. I guess.
And I really think, listen, if we cut out all the modern production of Shakespeare and you just put these scenes back to back, I think maybe the Reynaldo scene, I think maybe we see why it's there. And I think maybe it makes more sense rather than lights down, music, lights up, all this kind of pomp and circumstance. Maybe.
I think, I think also with that in mind, it'd be, once we go through that scene and that moment, maybe we will find things.
Maybe so.
The most important scene in the entire play. It's possible. The hidden secret of Hamlet is in Ronaldo.
When we actually read the scene, right? Exactly. Maybe so. I think that's great. And here, and so coming up between those two lines, there is a possible big time jump, because we're going to find out later that Hamlet's been acting strange for a while. We don't know how long, but Polonius goes to King and Queen and says, I think I know why he's been acting this way. How long he's been acting this way, we don't know.
And what exactly, so he leaves, he's in the Night's Watch, he's experienced with the ghosts, he says, swear with Marcellus and Horatio, then what does he do? He said, let's go. Does he go to sleep? Is it in his bedroom like, phew, damn, this is tough. I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Yeah, I don't know. I think
he something to read, mock the ghost. Yeah.
Hercules.
I talk about Hercules a lot. I'm kind of into him.
I don't even know who that is.
Yes.
So we'll get into all that. What has happened in the meantime?
Yeah. So I think we did. I mean, considering the import of Act 1, Scene 5, we got through it in less than 2 hours.
Wow.
So
that's good. Well, it is. I mean, I think the ghost stuff is very straightforward.
Yeah.
Right. Is very much, this is what it is. This is what happened. It's not until the cellarage scene where things get all weird. But that ghost is pretty direct. He's wordy, but he's pretty direct.
Just quick note, cellarage. Unusual? Did the word cellar exist back in the 16th century, or was it cellarage? I just keep thinking celery.
Yeah, I know. This is the first time I've ever heard the word cellarage, and I think it's the only place I've ever heard the word cellarage, but maybe it's where, maybe cellar was around and Shakespeare turned cellar into cellarage. I don't know. I call it the cellarage scene just because that word sticks out. It's like why I call the scene the expostulate, just because I like that word. So I end up referring to that scene by that word.
Yeah, it's funny. Expostulate, I feel like I might have heard somewhere else. I don't know where, probably nowhere, but like cellarage, I'm like, nope, definitely have not heard that.
Cellarage is cellarage is definitely on its own.
Yes.
Yeah.
But,
I don't know. Well, that's great. I tell you, that's a great Act 1, man. That is a great Act 1.
And the play could end right there. It could end right there. It's like, and then someone comes out and goes, and then stuff happens. Thank you very much for coming.
I hope you enjoyed it. Yes.
But it really is, it's not a self-contained. You obviously need the rest of the act, but there's just so much going on.
Oh man, it really, this is an absolute joy to take it this slow, to question everything, to agree, to disagree, to change our minds on stuff, because it is so dense. And I feel like you and I could start back at the top of the play and
Right now.
redo what we already did and have
Yes.
new
Who's there? Let's go. Whoa. Who's there? Let's go from that.
Let's
Or
go from there.
let's go with
Perfect.
this lighting, I suppose.
That's
Who's
it.
there?
I think I've seen that in some productions.
Santa
Yeah,
Monica did
yeah,
that.
great. It's great.
But anyway, yes, fantastic. Gosh,
All right, maybe let's try not to wait 6 months in between again if we can figure it out. That seemed like a
Yes.
long time. I know we were just busy and stuff, but yeah, let's.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad with that in mind that it has been about 6 or 8 months since the last chapter, that it feels like no time has passed when we're actually recording. You know.
Yeah, it does. Yeah,
Off camera, forget it. It feels like it's been 5 years. But yes, on camera, and of course with your magical editing, no time has passed.
Nope, not at all. And so speaking of editing, I'm trying to get the first 3 episodes posted all at once. That's what I'd like to do. I'd like to be able to announce that, hey, we've got 3 episodes. They're coming in at about 45 minutes right now. And I think they're wildly entertaining. So that should be happening soon. Yeah.
I'll dismiss that thought. I had a thought for a second, like, what if we had like a guest to listen in? But I thought, no, then it'll get too crowded, and let's just keep it between us. We can always maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, because I think we're going to continue this. We're going to get through the whole play.
Yeah.
Then I think maybe we're both going to watch the Kevin Kline version independently, and we're going to do an episode where we talk about that version, or, where we watch DVDs independent, like, hey, you watch the Burton, I'll watch the Burton, and we have a discussion about it.
Definitely
or
want to
we
break
break
the Christopher Plummer, Michael Caine version, because I've been tempted to watch that, but I've been holding off until we finish.
Oh no, you should watch it, and we can, discuss it. I should send that to you. Can you, I don't know where you would find it.
It's on
Is it? Oh, great.
Yeah.
Oh, great. But yeah, I see us doing that. I see us discussing, like, I see us continuing this, and maybe then in those episodes we can bring somebody in. But when it comes to the play itself, maybe it's just you and me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, just for now, right? Because otherwise, just keep it nice and simple. But I think you and I are the only ones that are willing to go scene by.
To spend 2 hours.
Yes. So that might be like, you know what? I've got some laundry and a dog to walk. So thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what's going to happen. All right, my friend. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ty. I will send it to you shortly.
All right. Hey, also, I think our Bell and Hal texts were some of our best work, my friend.
Yes.
And we've had some good stuff, but that was some of our best work.
Yes. I think we took it to a point, yes, that only you and I could take it to. Yes.
Yeah, it's good stuff. All right. I'll see you,
All right, man. See you next time. Take care.
Baby,